top story this hour. Accusation by World Peace Foundation that Ethiopia is using starvation as a weapon of war rejected as unsubstantiated. And Ethiopians denounce international media outlets including CNN for biased coverage of situation in Tigray. A very warm welcome to Addis News Hour. I'm Solomon Danye. Thanks for joining me. Ethiopian Ministry of Water, Irrigation and Energy disclosed that Ethiopia maintains its position that the trilateral negotiation should continue under the auspices of the AU. In a statement it issued after the latest round of talks held between 4th and 6th of April in Kinshasa, the ministry said Ethiopia is committed to the principle of equitable use of the Nile River and the need for cooperation, while Ethiopia supported the draft communique submitted by the chairperson of the AU with minor adjustment. Egypt and the Sudan rejected it. The two countries demanded the role of observers to replace that of the three countries and the AU. He said Ethiopia's resolve to reach a settlement on the first filling and related operation of the dam failed to be resolved due to the rigid stance taken by Egypt and the Sudan. The two nations, it said, wanted to make the negotiation and the outcome a tool to affirm their self-claimed water share and foreclose Ethiopia's share. The statement underlined that Ethiopia will undertake the second filling of the GERD as scheduled. Ethiopia has expressed its enormous respect for the role played by President of the Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, and Chair of the AU for hosting the meeting. Ethiopia, it said, reiterates its position in support of a trilateral process that will maintain the ownership of the countries and integrity of the AU-led process. Meanwhile, Minister of Water, Irrigation and Energy has issued a press conference on the issue. We will bring you latest developments and details during the 9 p.m. evening newscast. We've received the statement submitted by the Ethiopian Embassy to the UK to BBC World Service Radio in response to World Peace Foundation's report, Starving Tigray. The embassy rejects in the strongest terms the unsubstantiated accusations by the World Peace Foundation that the government of Ethiopia is starving the people of Tigray and using starvation as a weapon of war. The facts on the ground are entirely detached from the situation painted in the report, which deliberately ignores the fact that TPLF cruelly started the brutal attack on the northern command of the Ethiopian Defense Force just before the harvest season. Furthermore, the group deliberately destroyed much of the region's physical and public infrastructure to aid its retreat from federal forces. With the conclusion of the law enforcement operation, the government's main priority remains to rebuild and rehabilitate the region by ensuring that urgent humanitarian needs are addressed. The government has thus far taken concrete steps to comprehensively respond to the humanitarian needs on the ground by delivering life-saving food supplies to over 4.2 million citizens in Tigray, in coordination with local and international partners. It should be made clear that 1.8 million people in Tigray were already living on safety net programs over the last 2 decades, whilst the region was governed by the TPLF. Furthermore, recent events such as the locust infestation, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the TPLF's warmongering have exacerbated the food security situation in the region. It is also to be recalled that the government of Ethiopia granted unimpeded access to humanitarian agencies operating in the Tigray region. However, while several organizations are now scaling up their response to the humanitarian situation, the government of Ethiopia is still covering 70% of the costs of the ongoing relief operations from its limited resources, while the remaining 30% is being covered by development partners and NGOs. Despite the progress made thus far, the government of Ethiopia recognizes that the humanitarian situation on the ground remains complex. That's why the embassy is once again appealing to the international community and development partners to stand with Ethiopia at this critical time by helping augment the government's life-saving efforts. The embassy is also fully aware of the vested interests of some personalities in the World Peace Foundation who, in a desperate attempt to revive the TPLF, will not hesitate to document fabricated stories under the guise of free and independent analysis. The Prosperity Party and Fair Freedom and the Equality Party underscore the need to prioritize peace and security in the upcoming election. The two parties also say they have come up with alternative policy and ways of collaboration to scrap issues in connection with peace and security. Abtam Washagre has more.
Election. According to the chairperson, Freedom and Equality Party is alarmed by the recent insecurity and instability across the country.
በርካታ ዜጎች ህይወት ጠፍቷል ከቦታቸው ተፈናቅለዋል
Numerous people are dying and displaced. The security problem is also worsening the situation. Thus, the condition is alarming. If we win the election, we prioritize peace and security problems.
The Prosperity Party election affairs said Zadig Abra for his part said the death and displacement of Ethiopian are the main problems of the country.
We are stressing that a single individual displacement is a huge problem. There is also individual attack in our country. We have realized a tangible reform in our country, but this reform is not appropriate enough. We have to stop displacement and killings in various areas.
According to the parties, instability and insecurity problem results in political and economic problems across the country. To alleviate these problems, the two parties have adopted alternative policies.
Poverty and infant democracy is the root cause of many problems in our country. There are also other issues that aggravate the ongoing problems. The issue of consensus will be solved by democracy to solve issues of misunderstanding among political parties. We are assessing the root cause of displacement and mass killings in Ethiopia. We are ready to implement the remedies immediately.
ኢኮኖሚያዊና ፖለቲካዊ ምክንያቶቹን ከምንጩ ማድረቅ ያስፈልጋል
We have to address the root causes of economic and political problems so as to sustainably restore peace and stability across the country. We are also working alertly to realize fair opportunity for citizens. As you see, there is unfair opportunity location across the country. There is no equitable resource distribution at all. If we are not sustainably solving these problems, we wouldn't realize peace and stability in the future. As Freedom and Equality Party, we believe that we have adopted alternative policy to solve these problems.
According to the politicians, the manifesto, alternative policies and programs target is to unfailingly restore peace and stability as well as scrap socio-economic burdens in the future.
The Federal Election Council, which was set up by the Electoral Board of Ethiopia to oversee the process, expresses readiness for the peaceful conduct of the upcoming general elections. The council indicates that intimidations of party candidates have been observed in some parts of the country that should be set right quickly. We're more on this story. It is to be recalled that the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia has set up a National Election Security Council to oversee the pre-election process. The council, in its recent report, announced that the election preparation is more or less peaceful, except few uncertainties. The evaluation of the council indicated that the movement of election materials to all election constituencies has been commendable. Whereas candidates of opposition parties have been intimidated in some parts of the country, which should be corrected quickly, the council underscored.
የፓርቲ አመራሮች የፓርቲ ደጋፊዎች የፓርቲዎቹ እጩዎች በፈለጉት ቦታ ሕግንና ስርዓትን መሰረት አድርገው በሰላም የመንቀሳቀስ መብት አላቸው።
Party leaders, supporters and candidates have the right to operate everywhere in the country as long as they follow legal procedures. The government should discharge its responsibility to halt any attempt that disrupts this process. Candidates should not be intimidated overtly or covertly.
በአደባባይ ቢሆን በተናጠል በሚያደርጉት እንቅስቃሴ
Participants of the council's meeting pointed out that a certain type of platform should be established for both opposition parties and the incumbent to sort out election-related issues.
ከምርጫ ስነ ምግባር ደንቡ አኳያ ሁሉም ታማኝ ሆኖ የሚሄድበት ሁኔታ ላይ
I think it's crucial to reach an agreement that all stakeholders are discharging their responsibilities based on the Electoral Code of Conduct. When we say that this election should be peaceful, fair and free, we mean that all actors should trust the process and refrain from disruptive moves.
እምነት መያዙንና ከነበረው ባህክሎ
Deputy Chair of the Council, Kanaya Deta Forespar, said the public should cooperate with the government to foil attempts of groups that are working to ruin the election.
ህዝቡ በጣም በሰላም ትክክለኛ ዴሞክራሲያዊ ፍትሃዊና ሰላም ምርጫ እንዲካሄድ ይፈልጋል።
Despite the public's strong desire to see a free and peaceful election, there are organized forces that tirelessly work to disrupt the process. So the role of the public is significant to stem such disruptive moves. If the public jointly works with security personnel, we can conduct a peaceful and democratic election.
እንደሚጠበቀው ሰላማዊ ፍትሃዊና ዴሞክራሲያዊ ምርጫን
Every single individual is duty bound to make the election peaceful, it was indicated.
leerkan waxaa fuliyay xafiiskayga waxaa fuliyay wakaalada bacdiga naafada leerkan wuxuu hal abuur ka dhashay dhalinyaradii ka qalin jibisay TVka maamulka magaalada Gaxbuur ama kulliyadda farsamada xirfadaha ee maamulka magaalada Gaxbuur waxaa dhacday in iyagu macnaha sanadkii hore waxaan fulinay 3 kiiloomitir oo leerka istiriideedka iyagoo macnaha kaashanaya fikirkooda iyo macnaha aaladan cusub iyo siyaasiyadan cusub iyo macnaha
waxaa kamid ahaa dadku inay ka noqdaan galaha koonaha qoleeyaan meesha bajaajka ma jirto mana wayna arki waayaan ee galaamida ruuxa taagan ma arkayo halka naga soo
Welcome back, you're watching our Day's News Hour. While most international media outlets continue to surge forward with disinformation on the situation in Tigray, Ethiopians in the US came out chanting slogans against the CNN headquarters in Atlanta. Despite the government's effort to clarify the situation on the ground to the international community, the situation in Tigray is being reported in a deliberately exaggerated manner and with lots of biases included in the reports. The demonstrators chastised CNN for its deliberate ignoring of the mass killing in Maikadra, whereas it has been propagating lies about massacre in Aksu. The Ethiopians, with hundreds of Eritreans marching with them, also called for the US to respect and support the democratic transition in Ethiopia. Take a look.
Stop misleading the world about Ethiopia.
We believe that Ethiopia should be in a position generationally to control their own elections and to be in a position to elect through free and fair elections. And we stand with you. And we want you to also know, and I'll say this. I'll say this in closing, the long history of black Americans not being connected to the diaspora because of colonization.
Sudan, Egypt, stop the war with Ethiopia. We Ethiopians want peace.
This is unfair. Our people are dying daily. You say you want peace? Show us peace. Eritrean and Ethiopian stood by you, Georgia. What happened? We helped you to be voted. We helped the democracy. What happened? Democrat? Where's Abraham Stacy? We stood by you, knocking door to door, risking our lives, leaving our children. We helped you. We volunteered for fair democracy. We cannot allow TPLF terrorists. We denounce them. We hope you do the right thing. Denounce terrorist group. Please, we love Eritrea. We love Ethiopia. We love Somalia. We love Kenya.
An expert of diplomacy says the intensified attempt by Western powers to intervene in Ethiopia's internal affair emanates from their hatred and contempt to Ethiopia's independence. The expert Ndala Negusi stated that those powers are pressurizing to intrude in Ethiopia's issue because Ethiopia's diplomacy in the previous regime used to serve their interests. Emmanuel Jorge reports.
There is a vivid and recent memory that some Western powers trying to intervene in Ethiopia's internal affairs. An Ethiopian scholar on diplomacy, Ndala Negusi, said those who want the intervention are nations who are not happy on Ethiopia's symbolic image of independence to the world.
This is not new, as you know. You can see, Ethiopia is a symbol of independence. So there are individuals, there are officials, some government leaders, still they are not happy because of this. Ethiopia is a symbol of independence for the whole nations, even including for America. America was colonized by Britain for more than 180 years. 80, almost around 200 years. Ethiopia is a symbol of them. Ethiopia is the symbol for Europe regarding independence. So, unfortunately, some scholars, some mainstream medias, still they are against this, approach of Ethiopia's independence, Ethiopia's, symbolic feature. So they are still against that. So always, they want to interfere in the domestic affairs of Ethiopia so as to revenge these long, hidden motives of them.
He underscored that they are not worried about the humanitarian assistance in Ethiopia rather than the colonial sentiment in their minds.
Ethiopians are defending, their countries, their national interests, because we are in the right track. The fact is with us. Even you can see regarding their approach, it's still they do not, give a kind of humanitarian properly without their words. They have to come to, the word. So they have to respect Ethiopian sovereignty. They have to respect, regarding domestic affairs of Ethiopia. So the very essence is their colonial sentiment. You can see they want to maintain their status quo so as to divide Ethiopia, so as to weaken Ethiopia using any means.
He added that they are supporting the dying group in the north because they were satisfying them by dividing and ruling Ethiopia.
Basically, they try to divide Ethiopia using that, agent of them. That group, those, the dead group at north, the dead group was their agent. They are not happy because that group basically always tried to satisfy their long dream.
The Intergovernmental Authority on Development urged all higher education institutions in the member states to cooperate for regional integration. IGAD, in collaboration with the University of Jigjiga, has inaugurated its first Universities Forum in Jigjiga city. Kasan Jane presents the story as follows.
Jigjiga University is hosting the first IGAD Universities Forum in Jigjiga. This high-level conference has kicked off with delegates from all over the IGAD region. Workna Gabaya, Executive Secretary of IGAD, said that IGAD is committed to open learning opportunities through scholarships for citizens and member states for achieving regional integration. The Executive Secretary urges all higher learning institutions in the member states to cooperate for realizing an interstate integration through sharing responsibilities of nurturing young educated individuals. In his opening remarks at the IGAD Universities Forum, the president of the Somali regional state, Mustafa Mohammed, mentioned that the peace and security of both the IGAD member states and the ONU depend on solid integration of the region. He further emphasized that linking the member states through social, economic and political issues will help achieve a better understanding, movement of labor and growth for the peoples of the region and increases the degree of cooperation among member states. Meanwhile, speaking at the forum, State Minister for the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of Ethiopia, Professor Forgakasu, said IGAD is an organization that helps to ensure development and peace in the region. In this regard, IGAD is playing a supportive role to enable higher education institutions to conduct research to solve the practical societal problems in a sustainable manner, he added. Bashir Abdullahi, president of Jigjiga University, on his part said that IGAD is playing an irrepressible role in encouraging IGAD member states to work together to solve problems related to climate change and security. This forum is crucial for universities to work together to prevent problems before they occur in the Horn of Africa, where migration, drought and famine are rampant. It was noted that the forum is scheduled to be conducted for 2 days. It is being attended by 20 universities from the 8 member states, and a memorandum of understanding was signed by IGAD and 4 universities of the member states, including Jigjiga University.
This is Addis News Hour. The Turkish national athletics team were in Ethiopia recently. They have explored some of the unique cultures of Ethiopia during their stay and expressed their experience as follows. Take a look.
Come together. We want to Addis and we know, for example, Sabata for training. Sometimes we go Sandafa, Sabata, Kaliti, and we are staying. Now is we reach. We are staying there. We like Ethiopia people, and we want to come for every time.
Yes, very like Ethiopia. Just language, very nice. Every day, every time. Just drink.
My friend here.
Now you are Ethiopia.
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
I'm a second.
Perfect.
I like tux, everyday tux.
Boss.
Court. Good bathroom.
Etiyopyalı olmaktan mı?
Yeah. Yes, I like tux.
We got a reminder of our top stories. Accusation by World Peace Foundation that Ethiopia is using starvation as a weapon of war rejected as unsubstantiated. And Ethiopians denounce international media outlets including CNN for biased coverage of a situation in Tigray. Well, that's it for the news. For me, Solomon Dang and the rest of the English team here in the studio. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.